Hello, everybody here. Today we're going to discuss about a new product that we are going to release, actually next week. It's pretty exciting times for us. Azure Information Protection. And Azure Information Protection is based on a recent acquisition, a recent acquisition of a company named Secure Islands, that I was the founder of this company. Pretty cool that we are now part of Microsoft. And with me is Eyal Manor, part of the group.
Hi, nice to meet you.
And together we will do the presentation, and also, like always, I'm doing the boring stuff, the presentation and the slides, and Eyal will do the cool stuff of the live demos. Maybe next time you'll give me doing the live demos.
You can do one demo today if you want.
Really?
Yeah.
All right.
Let me think about it.
So what is Azure Information Protection? We are introducing a new concept that we're calling classification, classify, label, and protect, which you could call it CLP. Not DLP, CLP. And with this concept, which is actually part of the EMS suite, we are dealing with data. We're dealing with classifying and labeling and protecting data. So this is our main focus during this presentation. And as we said, EMS is a much more comprehensive suite that we really would like to give you maybe a recap about what EMS is all about.
So the EMS suite, and actually we've been having the EMS suite for a couple of years now, but just back in July, Microsoft and we have actually announced another additional package on top of the EMS suite, the EMS E3 and the EMS E5, and we'll be touching about some of the features that are available in the new EMS suite. But the EMS suite gives us the ability to gain back control for our identities and for the devices and for the cloud applications and for the data. And when we are looking at the EMS, the Enterprise Mobility and Security package, the way we have packed those products together is that you have now the ability to identify advanced threats by looking at anomalies of user activities, and that's done with a product called Advanced Threat Analytics, the ATA. It gives us the ability to manage devices and information on them and applications on them through a product called Intune. We've given you the ability to gain control for cloud applications, not just the SharePoint Online, OneDrive for Business, Skype, and Yammer, but I'm speaking here about your ability to use Box.net and Dropbox and Salesforce.com and Workday and many additional applications and gain back control for them. And we're having the Azure Information Protection that is dealing with the data.
So the data, as you could see, the data is actually in the center, and it's your top priority as IT and security professionals. And this is exactly what we're going to deal with Azure Information Protection. So when you are thinking about an effective security program of your information, one of the most important part of it is really to understand the data. This is the key component really to have an effective information protection, information security program. And this is in order really to apply a better data access and data flow. So this is actually what is the most important part, the first thing that you need to classify your data. So when we've discussed with various chief information security officers, we got many different quotes about why it's so important, really, first of all, to protect your information. And secondly, why it's very crucial to classify, really to understand what is your data, where it is located, and what type of data do you have. So some of the quotes, as you could see here, our primary challenge with information protection that actually you do not know where is your information and what is your information. Secondly, when you have so many hundreds of cloud services, it's so important really to protect the data, but again, it's so important, first of all, to understand your data and to classify your data. Give you an example of SPO. We've got a quote from one of our customers that he wants to migrate. He actually wants to migrate your data to the SPO, but he do not know how to identify the most important data and the most classified data. First of all, to treat it, or maybe even that the 95% of the data can be uploaded or can be migrated by the 5% of your crown jewel. That still you want that it will be protected and will stay on-prem. You want to leave it again on-prem. So in this case, you need to classify your information. So it's so crucial to have this kind of capability. Classify, label, and then apply the proper protection measurement. And this is exactly what we are delivering through our Azure Information Protection. So throughout the information lifecycle, we want to classify the information. And what I'm talking about classifying, I'm talking about doing the classification as much as close to the source, as much as once the data is at its creation, its incentive, to have classification, whether it do it automatically or manually, or a hybrid approach based on system recommendation, but we need to yield to as many as, to make it as much as automatic. And this is because we want that the end user will not be involved in the process, but in some cases, we do want that the end user will be involved. And we have here a policy that you could mandate what type of, in what cases you want that it will be manually, and in what cases you want that it will be automatically or through system recommendation. So this is the classification part. Once we have classified the information, we need to label that. We need to include or to embed a persistent tag into the data. And when I'm talking about data, I'm talking about files, documents, emails, and everything in between those kind of data assets at this stage. So once we are labeling, we've applied those labels, and again, in terms to make it, to have here visibility to the end user, that they will know exactly to what type of sensitivity this data belongs to. And also, we are creating here a language that it's not only Azure Information Protection can leverage. This labeling language or labeling format can be leveraged also by other products. And we will discuss about what type of other products can leverage those labels in order really to enforce different actions or to create those labels, and then the enforcement of the actions can be done by different enforcement products. But not only we're talking about what we are internally at Microsoft calling the first party. We're also talking about creating a format, a labeling format, that can be leveraged also by third parties. I'm pretty sure, how many of you have a DLP, Symantec, McAfee, WebSense? Great. So I think lots of people have raised their hand. So once the file or the email are labeled, you could use, based on our standard, you could use those kind of solutions, like DLP solutions, so it's not only bound to specifically to Microsoft. So we are working to build up here this ecosystem, and like Symantec, McAfee, or other DLP vendors can leverage those, our standard, our labeling standard. So it's very important really to create this standard as we are doing right now. Once we've applied those labels, based on a policy that you have created in your enterprise, you could apply different enforcement actions. One of them is, of course, the rights management services. So you could apply templates, RMS templates, or different RMS protection capabilities. And based on those labels, different RMS templates can be applied. So if nobody here, I'm pretty sure many of you know about RMS. So RMS is persistent protection embedded right into the data. So whenever the data goes, the protection goes with it, which is actually an excellent measurement, excellent enforcement measurement that you are actually do not care where is your data are stored. So RMS is actually integrated into our solution. So you have here classification, labeling, and protection of, based on RMS into a one complete solution. But not only RMS can be done through our solution. In many cases, you want to leverage, as we've just discussed, DLP actions. So again, based on our solution, you could use Office DLP as well, or other solutions that we will discuss about that later on, and we will also demo some of those kind of enforcement actions that we've done integration with. And of course, audit trails. So the CLP brings here a concept, a new concept, that you are not dealing in a silo approach of protection and classification. We've taken it, integrated it into one complete solution. Everything is orchestrated through our system, Azure Information Protection. So this is what we really believe the next generation of information security and information protection. So let's discuss a bit about the story of a file, and then we will really understand why it's so important to label, to classify, to label, and apply protection throughout the information lifecycle, and how we are leveraging different solutions, again, different solutions from Microsoft, and of course can be also used by different solutions from other vendors as well. But we are creating here, during the life cycle of the information, a language based on labels, based on classification labels that can be leveraged throughout the information lifecycle by different solutions. So we are not really only talking about purely about Azure Information Protection. Actually, we are talking about Microsoft Information Protection that is constructed based on various components. One of them is Azure Information Protection, which is very important in really doing all the orchestration of the process of the information protection program, of your information protection program. So once the file is being created, let's say from a various sources, Word, or it can be Box, SAP, whatever, we've identified the data, we are classifying the data, and we are applying the proper protection. Throughout the information lifecycle, it may be that it be opened in your PC. So in this case, we have WIP, Windows Information Protection, that can leverage our labels down the road. Right now, it is not, but the vision that we are talking about, that those labels, as you know, in WIP, Windows Information Protection, information is, actually, it is divided to two parts. One is work, and the other one is personal. So you could use our labels of confidential data that can be attached to a work, to the work term of Windows Information Protection. Down the road, when you want to send out this document or upload it to SPO, you could leverage the sensitivity of the document that we've done in Azure Information Protection, and you could have a DLP rule that can be applied on the document. So when it is a secret data and it's uploaded to SPO, you may do different rules based on the Office DLP within the Office 365. Then in Intune, you could have conditional access based on labels as well. It is not yet delivered, but this is our roadmap. So once a document, a secret document, which is in a mobile device, you may not access to it because it's a secret data and Intune will not let you to access to this data. Or with a conditional access, you need to have a certain different authentication mechanism to be in order to access to this document. Eventually, you may upload this file to different cloud service like Box.net, and we will present how we are doing it. So MCAS, Microsoft Cloud Access Security, application security may leverage again those labels. So we will show an example. So once a file is being uploaded to a public folder, and it's a secret file that was, again, labeled by Azure Information Protection, we may revoke the access based on this label. So here we have created a complete solution based on various different products that are actually using the same language, the same business language of the labels. And this is really where we are going. And down the road, we may have different solutions, not only third party, first party, but also third party. So what we want to present, and again, I've asked Eyal to do so, very cool examples how we've leveraged the Azure Information Protection in various use cases. We will show end user experience, the admin experience, how you could configure those kind of cool demos. And the third one is how to leverage those labels in different workloads that I've discussed. Yeah.
Thanks. And you know, this is very, very interesting, and it works very, very nice when we're talking about classification, labeling, and protection. Do you want to see how it works in reality? Yes. So what we're going to do is really see how Azure Information Protection comes into reality, and how in 5 minutes we really have the ability to take our business and to have our business start speaking the language of Azure Information Protection. Correct me if I'm wrong, but you see nothing on the screens? You see something? Okay, you get to see my screen. So by show of hands, how many of the people here are working in a business that already has an information protection business language, such as public, private, secret, confidential? Nice, keep your hands up for a second. Now lower your hand if you think that the people in your business don't use it very well. Okay. And this is, guys, you are not unique. Your business is unique. You are unique as people, but this problem is not unique. And this is something that we see everywhere again and again. I will tell you a secret. Also at Microsoft, we have a business language, and it was very hard. It was very challenging to engage the people to use it. And this is one of the very, very, very first, most basic scenarios that, guys, you can get in 5 minutes into your business and start getting your information protection business language implemented to the users. And let's see how simple it is. I start this demo with talking about the end user experience. We will go on that, and then we'll switch and think about the administrator, the IT operations and security, what will be their experience. I want to show you that it's very, very easy for both sides. We put lots of energies making sure that it will be as simple as possible for both sides. And as you can see, I've opened a Word document. Right now, I'm an information worker. I'm Sarah from purchasing. I'm Adam from HR, or Eyal from product management. And you can see here that we've implemented my business, Microsoft's information protection business language, into my daily working environment. So think what you've done so far till today. You have put this business information language in your training material, in the new hire orientation. You put these nice posters in the cafeteria, but people don't remember that over time. What's secret, what's sensitive, when I use this, when I use that. So instead of getting the people running after the intranet and trying to find this material, we bring it to their daily environment. So I open this document. Let's see what's going on here. And this is the new Azure Information Protection client. It's integrated very, very nicely into Word, Excel, PowerPoint, Outlook 2010, 2013, 2016. Windows 8, Windows 10, Windows 7. So no matter what environment you are up to today, we don't need you to wait for the next upgrade cycle in like 18 months, 24 months. You can, guys, use it today. So what do you see? I get to see that I have a concept called sensitivity. As a user, I hover on that, and it tells me what's sensitive. I see that this document is already labeled for me as general, which is a very, very good thing to make this common denominator the minimum level of labels for newly created data in my business. And it doesn't have to be general. It's general for me because I'm a product manager. But guys, you are at HR. So for your division, the default label will be confidential HR. And you guys there are at finance. So for your default label, it will be top restricted -finance or something like that. And for me, it's general because most of the data that I create by default is general. And you see that this is a very, very self-learning mechanisms. I can hover on top of that. This is public, this is general. This is interesting because this is restricted. And you can see that we give you guys the ability to set a secondary, another dimension of labels to have the ability to describe also a document scope, or also a specific regulation, or also something that you really, really care about. So this is restricted. So in my case here in Microsoft, we are talking about scopes. Restricted for executives, restricted for board members, restricted for everybody, and so on and so forth. You can look at that as restricted contains customer records. Restricted because of import regulations cannot leave the boundaries of the United Kingdom, and so on and so forth. So this is what we're calling the secondary label. And the very, very first thing that we're going to see here is that I can work on my document and decide that this document will be restricted. And in this case, I will choose restricted, for example, finance related. So this is what we call manual labeling. So first, we engage the user, we educate the users, we bring the business language to the user, and now the user have labeled something. Let's see what happens. So first, I get the visibility. First, I labeled something. Yuval was teaching you about classification. This was the classification part, the manual side. Now we have the label. So first we have the visual labels. In this case, I can see here classified as Microsoft restricted, and this is my user. And we can do the same as footer, watermarks, header, any combination of them. Lots of dynamic parameters such as my email address, the label name, the document, where it's positioned, and so on and so forth. But Yuval was talking also about labeling and then protection. So protection means that in Microsoft, we've decided that a restricted document has to be protected by being encrypted. So if I will look here and click File, we can see that this document is actually protected with an Azure rights management template called Microsoft All Employees. So actually, who's working at Microsoft here? Yuval, me, Shai? Okay, so we have people working at Microsoft. I can share them this file. I don't care how. Whether my USB drive, box, Dropbox, whatever. Only people that are working at Microsoft will have the ability to double-click this document from any Outlook application or any Office application on iPhone, iPad, Android device, Mac, Windows, any device, and get immediate access to it. But if you don't work at Microsoft, and this is the vast majority of the people in the room, you'll just not even have the ability to use this document. And this is one angle of what do we mean by protection. We're going to see by far more angles about what protection means. This is one angle of protection. So we're talking about manual classification, about labeling, about protection. We had, just before the session, somebody was asking about automatic labeling. And when we're looking at that, we do understand that many people get engaged and start labeling data. But we would like to start automating the process and make it a bit more transparent, a bit more fluent, a bit more accurate, a bit more duplicatable. So I know that any piece of information that matches a specific content will be labeled as X. So we have the ability to also, let's close this document, we don't need it anymore, and let's open this document and start talking about how we're streamlining automation into the process. So now I was opening another document, and we have the ability to set up conditions. Conditions that you can set up today are based on content. Regular expressions, patterns, mix and match between them. We're going to add over time by far many, many additional conditions, looking at document properties and who I am and what this document looks like and where the document is located, and by far many, many, many more. And in this document, they're talking about some virtual team for finance that is dealing with Azure fraud prevention. You can see that I have few credit card numbers. In matter of fact, I have here 3 credit card numbers. And let's see what's going on when I'm trying to save this document. You can see that something is very interesting is taking place. So when I'm saving this document, I'm having a content matching engine that is running and compare this policy to my business policy that was configured by my security administrator. And my security administrator is looking for information such as credit card numbers. Now, 3 numbers, it's not enough to be certain 100% that I would like to automatically protect that. So again, I empower the user to take a decision, but I would like, again, to set education, right? So we are telling the end user, we are giving them the policy tip, telling them that we recommend you as a business to label this information as something. In this case, it's restricted finance related. The user can ignore, the user can accept, and this is very, very good to empower the user. Now think about that if you are dealing with IT, with security, with thinking about how I deploy that into the business. Think that the user recommendation is the best way to start rolling out your ability to go to automation, because you can check for false positives. You can get the end users getting used to the fact that we are looking for some specific patterns. People understand that, and when we see that people are accepting that, such as, for example, clicking here, change now, we now have the ability as administrators to promote this rule from recommendation to automation. So if you have a lot of concerns around false positives, it's a great idea. Start with recommendation, let's see the acceptance, and move to automatic at a later point. And in this case, my document has become really automated. So, you know, having another example, this example is a bit more significant because it has more credit card numbers, right? It has like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 of them. And here my administrator feels better about putting some automatic classification. We can see that by just clicking save on this document, we are actually putting an automatic labeling on this file. So I want to stop for a minute and just tell you that we are very interested, Yuval and I, to gain your feedback, your questions, your comments throughout the presentation, and don't necessarily wait to the end because we believe that the flow will be a bit better. So let's stop for a second, and whether you have any questions, it's a good time to raise your hands. Yes, sir?
What about other file types, other Office, PDF?
All right. So thank you, sir. This is a very, very good question. I'll repeat the question. The question was, what about other file types, such as PDFs, JPEG, images? And for that, we do believe that we don't want to limit our solution for Office file only. Because at the end of the day, Yuval talked about it, we care about the data. And whether I'm using iPad with PDF coming from Salesforce, or PowerPoint on my PC coming from OneDrive for Business, from data protection perspective, it's exactly the same. So it was an excellent question because, you know what, it's a beautiful question because it's a nice segue for the next part. And, you know, let's take a look at this JPEG. Now, I love this JPEG because, you know, Yuval, remember like back in February, we were sitting in your room and we were drawboarding on a whiteboard. How do we want to have the features of Azure Information Protection for our first public preview?
It was pretty sensitive.
It was pretty sensitive back in April. Today,
right. Today
it's nothing, but let's roll back in time and say that it was April. And, you know, we didn't have this very nice Skype TV, so like everybody, I took my camera and took a screenshot of the whiteboard. Are you doing that as well from time to time? Yeah, I do it a lot. So now I have the ability to go to this JPEG and just do right click. And in right click, you can see that we're looking at information protection that gives me the ability to engage my users also to many additional file types. And in this case, I can click here, classify and protect. And guess what? The same business language that we've seen 3 minutes ago is applicable for any other file type. Now, I'm sure people are going to think that I planted the question for you, right? And I gave you like 5 cents for it. No, we don't know each other, but thank you for that. It was an excellent question. And you can see that I can mark that, for example, as, let's say that this will be general, okay? And if I look again, yeah, we're changing that. And if I will look at the file again, we can see that the file has been marked as general. So what we're actually doing here is that we have the technology to embed those label, the persistent label, this, you know, sticky metadata into more than 30 different file types. I have the ability to protect any file type in the world. But if you just want to label a document such as general, for example, we have like 30 file types, images, audio, video, some varieties of CAD designs. Of course, Adobe PDF. As I saw Monday morning, we're super best friends now. And it is very, very important for us. Now, You know, even to leverage on your question, you would like to share this data with very, very specific people. I can override the automatic label behavioral and say, for example, that I would like to give reviewer permissions to some people in my business, such as Yuval at, we'll just do it shorter, Msoft.com, Microsoft.com, and that will give me the ability to really do some ad hoc protection and actually even limit more the scope of this file. So thank you for this question, sir. I appreciate that. Any other questions from the audience before we continue on moving on? Yes, sir.
Related with that, Azure Information Protection will also prevent you from screen capturing. You had that document open before that was restricted.
Yeah.
It would prevent the screen capture, so you couldn't just screen cap it and then send it out.
Yeah, I'll repeat the question because, again, it's a big room. And the question is around rights or around permission. So when we're talking about Azure Information Protection, when we talked about the P part, the protection part, the RMS part, this part is talking also about not just user rights, but also permissions. For example, I have the ability to do everything. You can edit without print or copy. Shai, our product manager, that's taking responsibility for the entire cloud and service and portal part. Raise your hand, this is Shai. Has the ability to do anything except of changing the permission, for example. And this gives us the ability to set granularity. We have like several permissions, such as copy and paste, such as take a screenshot, such as edit, such as save as to another file, such as remove the label, maybe a couple of more, and we can play with these in a very, very granular way. Right. Any other question at this point?
Yeah. Here, there.
Okay, your paper. Yes?
So here, with this client, you're discontinuing the old RMS client that was also available in your Explorer?
The sharing app, you're referring to the sharing app. Yes. Azure Information Protection is actually replacing the sharing app. And there will be only Azure Information Protection, powered by RMS. But the sharing app will not, will be discontinued.
And are you planning to maybe integrate that into the Office 365 Promise package, or maybe provide a link to the user, because that's always difficult for them to...
All right. So the question is whether those kind of capabilities going to be integrated into the Office suite, right? This was the question. Yes, the answer is yes. We are now working with the Office team to make it to make those kind of capabilities as within the native Office program. Yes, solution. It will take some time, but yes, indeed, this is something that we're working on. In 2016, of course, it will be introduced. Another question? Yes.
Yes.
What about labeling and classification of engineering type of RTL files and sort of code data,
Yeah.
which we don't want to leak out of the organization?
All right. So it's a very good question. So the question was, I think it's also continuing to the question coming from this the previously asked about other file formats, so in this case, CAD/CAM, or design files. As Eyal has mentioned, we are adding more and more file types. So the next release of our solution, we're going to add those kind of file types. And eventually, first of all, in terms of the protection, we are supporting any file types. And it's very, very important. So in terms of leakage, this you could do even today, all right? So any file type, you could apply protection based on RMS, and in this case, prevent of those kind of very, very sensitive file types to be leaked outside. It might be that they will be leaked, but of course, the unauthorized user will not be able to access it. In terms of the labeling capabilities, we are supporting more and more file types, and in a couple of weeks' time, we're going to have 30 different file types,
yep,
including CAD/CAM. Some of them, I do not know specifically about your file type, but yes. I'm going to address about the roadmap in a couple of slides. I'm going to address about our intention to support any file type, and of course, to support in both the entire CLP, classifying, labeling, and protect any file type. So this is one of the most important capabilities that we're going to introduce down the road.
All right, so we're going to continue a bit further with our demonstrations because we have plenty of demonstration to show and we would like to use the time in the best way. And if we're looking at the scenarios, we've been talking about manual and default labels and many other file types and some automatic and some conditions. And for the people here that are dealing with the administrative parts, the people that are IT operations, the people that are dealing with the Azure, the people that are dealing in security, I would like to show you a bit how we're setting an information protection policy and controlling that in minutes. So say hi to the Azure portal. I want to be sure that pretty much everybody in this room is familiar with this portal, right? Azure portal,
Hopefully,
yeah?
yes.
See, everybody says yes. This is very, very good. And when we're talking about CLP, about Azure Information Protection, this is actually a service that we are providing today through Azure. We've been working on that for the past several months. And you can see that we can also go and find that through my security and identity. But even simpler, I can just go to my more services and find the Azure Information Protection service on my portal and just launch it. Now, for the very, very first time, and by the way, we'll be talking about licensing in some 21 minutes, so we'll get to that.
21.
But around, yeah, a bit less maybe. But when you're launching this, and currently you have the ability to launch that, you will see that we are bringing you some default labels that we believe that could have been best for your business. If you remember at the beginning of this session, I was asking you guys who has an information protection language, such as internal, confidential, and secret. Some of you says, yeah, we have them. Actually, most of you said we have them. Some of you said we don't. So instead of you guys go and start inventing the wheel and thinking about that, we're going to bring you some default settings that we believe that could serve the most common denominator market needs today. Absolutely, and of course, that you have the ability to come and change them and adapt them to your needs. You can change the color, the name, the localization, the tooltip, the order between them, the sub-labels, the actions, everything. Look at that as a Lego pieces or a jigsaw puzzle pieces that you have the ability to mix and match and do it as far as you want or as far that meets your business need. So this is my portal, and we can see here even the title says sensitivity and the tooltip. And if we'll be looking at that here, this is actually my business taxonomy. So this is going to be reflected in my Word, Excel, PowerPoint, Outlook, right-click. This is going to be reflected as a business language when I work with Microsoft Cloud App Security, when I work with the Office 365 DLP or third-party DLPs. This is, guys, reflecting your business language, the most important thing that gives us the infrastructure to start understanding our data. So we have here personal, public, internal, restricted, confidential. Let's take a look at internal. This will be easy. We'll open another tile on the right, and we can see here the label name, the tooltip, the color, and this starts getting a bit more interesting. Here I would like to start setting the actions that will be followed by setting this label, or the conditions that are required in order to set this label. So conditions and actions, actions and conditions. So some of the actions, for example, set visual markings. So we can talk about header, and here I can set a header that I would like to have, such as this document is internal. We can set the font size, we can set the color, and so on and so forth. The same with the watermark that we're having. The watermark, I lost the watermark. Okay, together with the watermark that we're having here, and together with the conditions. The conditions are actually giving the ability, okay, we forgot the RMS template, right?
Yeah, regarding the watermark and the footer,
Yeah.
could I add dynamic parameters?
Oh, it's an excellent question. And actually, we just saw that. we have the ability to set some 4 or 5 different dynamic parameters to the UVAL, such as who is the person, what's your username or email address of the person who set the label, for example, such as the document name or the document path, or such as the label name. So we have many businesses that are coming to us and say, hey, for any information which is confidential, I would like to know who set this information as confidential and where this document is located. And this is very, very easy when we can say set by. For that, we need a bit to be technology geeks, so we're doing something like UPN, and this will work. Now you ask me, how do I know that I need to do the dollar and ampersand? We have excellent documentation, and in the documentation on the docs.microsoft.com, you can read everything about that and how to do it. Now, we talked about protection. So I would like, for example, to say that RMS will be applied, for example, such as setting a label called confidential. You can see here on top something very, very interesting that we did for a very relatively small part of our businesses, giving me the ability to choose what server will be used when protecting the data. We would like to encourage everybody here in this room to use RMS server called Azure Rights Management, because you don't need to manage it, you don't need to operate or to secure it. You have an excellent ability to share information between many people, business to consumers, to take data from mobile devices. But some of the businesses that we're talking with would like to take a small part of their data and to protect it with on-prem RMS server, meaning that these guys, they own the encryption keys, and we will never have any access to this data or to the encryption keys or to any other thing. And for that, we've introduced a concept called HOC, hold your own key, where I really have the ability to choose an ADRMS and set some information over here and actually say, if the data is labeled as confidential, it will be protected by Azure RMS, but if it will be super, super, super confidential, it will be protected by an ADRMS. And this is one of the things that we've been doing for some of our legacy customers, some of the people that are dealing with highly super restrictive industries that don't have the ability to protect all of the data using Azure RMS. So the last part that I will show here on our side will be actually the document conditions. And as we can see here, conditions are very, very, very simple to add. All we need to do is to set some new condition. We can see several building blocks that we are already having here, or having you the ability to customize your condition. And as a result, we can decide whether we will have an automatic action or a recommended action, and really, as you can see below, to configure the policy tip. The great thing around our management infrastructure is that we are working as a service. And we've been working with many companies that have been piloted and tested this solution among 50 people, 100 people, 200 people, and we've saw that getting this service up and running takes minutes. Setting the policy takes a few more minutes. Once we have the client running on my computer, and this is the client that we have over here, these clients are automatically using ADAL, Active Directory Authentication Language, are automatically signing into our service and bringing this policy and automatically working. So if you have in your business ADFS and SSO, I need to do nothing. If you have AD-Sync and you don't have ADFS and SSO, I'm getting a nice prompt. I need to put my user and password just for the first time, and I get my policy, and we can see here on my computer, if I go to help and feedback, I see that I'm connected as Microsoft.com to the Microsoft tenant. Super easy, couple of hours from starting point to ending point, and we are done. And this is a great, great benefit that we are giving, because we know very, very well customers that try to deal with information protection. Yuval and I did that in the past with on-prem servers, with more complex configuration, and we've shortened the time for you to try the product and deploy it from many, many days to just a couple of hours. So any questions about the management interface or management service from everybody?
I have just one general question.
Yeah, sure.
I don't know, maybe you talk about it. So since this is a part of the information protection suite, can we just get this and not get everything else that comes as a part of the,
Yes. The question is about licensing and packaging. And actually, your question, ma'am, was whether I need to buy a full-blown package or whether I can buy this capability, what I call a la carte. The answer is yes. You can buy it a la carte or you can buy the full package. I'm sure that the account manager will explain you why buying the full package brings you by far better benefits to the business in terms of security, capabilities, and costs. But at the end of the day, it's up to you to make a decision. So what I'd like to do is to jump to something which brings a lot of interest by our customer and bring a lot of interest to us, the team who is developing the product. Because what we've seen so far, we've seen integration with the user. We've seen integration that is automatic. That was many, many interactions for me using the product. This is what we are calling at use. So I'm using the product, I'm in front of Word or PowerPoint or Excel or right-click, and then I classify and label and protect the data. But we have so much information on SharePoint Online and on file servers and on going to Box and Dropbox. And we have a lot of instances in our business that are dealing with information protection, and I would like to leverage them in order to protect my data whenever it goes throughout its entire life cycle. And this brings us to this very, very exciting and interesting demo where we can see how first-party products, Microsoft Information Protection products, SharePoint, SharePoint Online, Office DLP, Office 365 DLP, and the Microsoft Cloud App Security gives us the ability to actually leverage those labels and bring you guys to your business by far better information protection solution. So what I can do here is that let's take my file. This is a restricted. I will just do it restricted for any user. And let's just save this file. This is the fraud VTIM 3. You just need to remember fraud VTIM 3. This is restricted. And let's close these files. We don't need them anymore. And let's go to my Outlook Web Access. So the first scenario that I want to show you is how Office DLP is actually looking at the document label and is leveraging that in order to make a smarter action. They don't just need to look at the dictionaries, that they also have the ability to look at the labels because somebody has put the effort to already label this document, right? So let me go here and go to my inbox, and I will do something very nice. Let's send this document to my Gmail, my weekend work. I don't work on weekends, just an example. And where was our file? It was here. So let's take this file. I remind you this file is marked as restricted, right? And let's send this document. So I'm sending this document, and something happened, right? I just got a returning email. So it's live so far. Our demo is working very nice. And what we can see is that Office DLP did something very interesting. So Office DLP was looking with Transport Exchange rules and the Office DLP mechanisms, was looking at the mail that was left. And I don't mind. It was Outlook, Outlook Web Access, the Outlook app, my ability to work from a kiosk in a restaurant.
Or mobile.
Or from my iPhone, yeah. And we can see that Outlook was rejecting this Office. And it gives me a very, very nice explanation. It tells me this mail or attachment is labeled as restricted, and this message cannot go to your Gmail account, period. Now, Office DLP has the ability to do that because Yuval, for example, it had the ability to look for credit card numbers, right? Mm-hmm. But this is by far more accurate because when you're looking at credit card numbers, how do you have the ability to know whether these are credit card numbers that represent my customers or credit card numbers that represent something personal that you have, right? So we are not looking just at credit card numbers, but also looking at the word restricted, or not at the word, but at the label restricted. And this gives you guys by far better accuracy of understanding your data at the DLP side. Right? Nice. Isn't that exciting? So let's take a look at another example. And now, I know, you'll ask me, Yuval, yeah, but this is Exchange Online. What's going on with other services? Right? Box.net. So maybe where I don't have visibility to Box.net at all, let's see how it works. So right now, this is a sample customer because here at Microsoft, we are fully bounded to OneDrive for Business and SharePoint Online. But we need to understand that many of you people are working with Google Drive, working with Google Apps, with Box.net, with Dropbox.com. And let's take a look at what happens. So this is my enterprise Box.net account. and we will do exactly the very same thing. So I'm taking my fraud VTIM3 docx, and here it is. Let me even do it a bit more interesting. Let me share this document with some of the people. This is something that
Make it public.
many people, oh, okay, make it public. So, share, okay. So share, I'm getting a sharing link. This is something that people are doing on a daily basis. They're not necessarily understanding what does it mean to share something. So they share something, let's take that.
So in this case, I can take the link. Everyone in the room can take the link and can access to this file.
Yeah, like that. You can just do OK. And here's our file. You remember it was restricted. I think that we will even have the ability to say here that it was restricted, but I did not protect this file in first place, and everybody now have the ability to do it. Now, this is Box, or Dropbox, or Google Apps, or any other thing. And you guess to think that we don't have the visibility for that, but as I said before, iPad, PDF, and Box.net, this is not a part of the Microsoft products, but it is a part of the information protection solution that I would like you guys to use. So we have our excellent friends at Microsoft Cloud App Security, the guys that are doing the MCAS solution, and let's take a look at their console for a couple of moments. So switching for a minute to the Cloud App Security console, and if I'm looking at that, the first dashboard that I'm getting here is very, very interesting. It's not related specifically to information protection. We just talk about it for a second. It gives you the ability to understand what cloud usage you get at the business. For all of the problems such as shadow IT, all of the people that are engaging with cloud apps that we are not familiar with as system administrators, we get the ability to understand it here. And to see the risk levels of those cloud apps, and to see the ability of how many users have used these applications. And this is very, very important, but I will concentrate more on the part of the investigation. And let's take a look at investigate files. And I'm going to see here something very interesting. So the file that I just uploaded to Box already appears in the Cloud App Security Gateway, because the way that we are working with Cloud App Security is that we are sanctions specific applications such as Box.net and looking at them and understanding what's going on them in terms of data. And if I look at that, fraud VTIM3, AYAL, uploaded to Box, one collaborator, this is interesting, and let's see how it goes. Let me maybe just click this file for a second here. And okay, so scanning is still pending in queue. I still don't get the file tag. It takes usually a few moments. But if I will take the VTIM3 that I did an hour ago at the theater booth, then we can see that the file tag is restricted for any user. And as an administrator, I have the ability to go here to Files and to do something very, very interesting for me. Let's create a small filter and look at overall files that has a tag called restricted. And let's see what happens. Oh, here's our new file. It was already scanned. We can see it already, right? So this shows me, and you see this exclamation mark. This is, something that I need to look at. All of the files that are marked as restricted and went to Box appear here. And if I want as an administrator to investigate it a bit further, I can click this file here and look at the related activity. And I don't know if all of the activity will be here already. Let's give it a second and see. Oh, nice. It's already here. So the file was uploaded, and then it was shared, and then somebody was, so it's actually going bottom up. So it was uploaded, then it was shared, then it was viewed. And now I have the ability to take this information and to create a policy from it. And the policy, for example, can look at all of the information that goes into Box and shared with others and labeled restricted, do something. And this is the great thing about protection, Yuval. Protection doesn't have to be about encryption. Protection could be log, alert, quarantine the file, strip the file from being shared with others. And these are many, many things that we can see here in our security policy that we have here.
Actually, I can do this kind of policy automatically. So next time I'm uploading the file, then the action will be done automatically, right?
Exactly. And this is fantastic. And this gives us the ability to make a one-time analysis and build a policy and work according to that. So we do see that our session is running very, very fast, much faster than we were thinking.
Any questions? Yeah.
Have you been able to see that on Box because it was Box Enterprise, or it was linked to your Azure Media Company? Or do you have some partnership with some companies to be able to scan or to get some information when they have been classified? How does it work?
Okay. So the question was whether the example that we've shown here, it's Box.net, whether we have partnered with Box.net. So in this case, we haven't really partnered with Box.net. MCAS, they've used their capabilities in order to, they have authentication and then they've applied their policy into Box based on APIs. There is public APIs of Box.net, and they've leveraged the public APIs of Box.net, okay, as an enterprise admin that can access, and they have this kind of visibility. So it's those kind of public APIs. You could see it also in Dropbox, in Google, as well as other solutions. And this kind of capability was delivered by MCAS.
But it's because it was Box Enterprise? Would it work with any consumer solution like my own Google Drive account, for example?
So the question is whether you have other kind of services that not necessarily Box.net, as MCAS leverage the APIs, and they haven't done sort of leverage those APIs. So in MCAS, there is a concept of sanctioned and unsanctioned application. Those kind of capabilities that we've shown, it's what we call the sanctioned apps, that we have the visibility to access and to do these kind of things. The unsanctioned, of course, like Dropbox, etc., we will not be able to do so, but we will be able to know exactly whether the end user has access to this app, okay? But without those kind of capabilities. For those kind of capabilities, you need to, what we call the sanctioned apps.
Okay.
So there is another question there.
Yeah, let's take one more.
Can you show how Office 365 Change Online POP configuration integrated with this?
If I can show what, I'm sorry?
Yes. Show the Office 365 Change Online POP configuration. How that
I can show it to you after that. What I did was very, very simple. I've created a DLP policy in Exchange. And in the DLP policy, there is today an ability to say by file properties. And I'm looking at the file property called label with sensitivity restricted, and that's it. I can tell you that I've done that without reading the documentation. It just took me a few seconds. It's really, really not a big deal, and it's working very, very nicely and out of the box. And I will take maybe 2 minutes to share with you a couple of amazing success stories that we had during the public preview period of Azure Information Protection, because this will show you the strength of this solution, and also show a couple of different scenarios to look at this solution. And the first one is coming from a pharmaceutical company in Europe. And these guys were actually having a huge problem in terms of regulation and law to move from Exchange to Exchange Online and from SharePoint to SharePoint Online. And their legal team said, hey guys, you cannot move to the cloud services because we don't understand our data and how we can be assured that somebody doesn't put very top sensitive data on the SharePoint Online. And these guys made an instant decision. So it was coming from legal, and on the other side, business, putting a lot of pressure to move to the cloud by October 1st, 2016. And this guy said, wait a second, we need to have a tool to engage the users, to educate the users. And they actually came to us and saw it. And actually what you can see here is coming from their original legal documents. And they're actually pushing our solution right now into production through the public preview period into several dozens of thousands of users, giving them the bar for classification, and it works. These guys were looking at several other solutions in the market, such as us, such as the previous solution that we came with Secure Islands and some other market solution. They chose Azure Information Protection for 2 reasons. Reason number 1, it's Microsoft, it's easy, it's integrated for them. Reason number 2, it was the quickest solution to roll. So it was very, very important for them, and they're extremely happy. And just yesterday, we had a discussion with them, and everything is really, really nice. And on the other side, we have a very, very big consulting company here in the States, based in Midwest. And these guys were actually having a different problem. So the guys before that wanted to move to the cloud. These guys are already in the cloud. They don't have this problem. They were using rights management service. It was very important for them to protect their customer data. But people didn't do it. So they bought rights management, and they're watching the monitors, and they see no usage. And then they understood that they need to engage the user. They need to give the user a tool that will be a part of the business policy and will attract the end users to click those labels and to start protecting the labels. And they did that, and they did a really, really nice pilot of several hundreds of people set up again in a couple of hours, and they've seen a spike after 60 days from 0 to 7% of the document that were actually protected. They were expecting to have like 2. It was 7. It was a phenomenal success, and really like that. So you can see here several examples about how we can get compliance and move to the cloud, how we get people engaged and educated and help them classify more data. And with the demonstration that we've seen, you can also see how we can engage the cloud app security, the Exchange, the Office 365, and as we are saying in the future, more partners to, by far, protect us better based on the labels. So, Yuval, back to you.
Yeah, back to the boring stuff. I need to deal with the product packaging. So, actually, we have 2 flavors. One is EMS-E3. In EMS-E3, we are providing what you've seen here, the toolbar, but in this case, without the condition. In this case, without really having the automation and the recommendation, and of course, without the cool features of the integration with the MCAS solution, which is part of the EMS-E5. In the EMS-E5, we have much more comprehensive solution. Again, the E3, it's important. Whether you want it for compliance purposes, this is fit to your needs. However, when you do want to have a comprehensive information protection solution that actually doing automation based on certain conditions, based on a policy, then you need to go to the E5. If you want other file types, go to the E5. So the E5 is much more comprehensive and can give you the flexibility really to create a very, very in-depth policies as we've shown. Of course, if you are a regulated company that you must have your keys on-prem for the crown jewels of your information, then you must buy the E5 suite. Talking a bit about our roadmap. So as we have shown you today, and as we've said that next week we're going to release our first GA, so we've seen here manual, automatic, and recommendation labeling capabilities, the CLP, the full-blown CLP. And of course, we could apply content marking and doing RMS, and integrate with the MCAS solution. And of course, as we've said, the HYOK, and all the goodies and the nice things, the features that we've shown you today. The next step is really to extend our capabilities not only for Office, but also to other file types. So we've just discussed about PDF, we've discussed about CAD/CAM, etc. So this is actually going to be released in a couple of weeks' time, around November. We're going to release this kind of capability that, in a glance, we've shown you some of those kind of capabilities, and also reporting capabilities and audit trails that we could collect and have a very nice audit trails that we could supply. One very, very important aspect that we haven't shown, We are doing right now CLP for data in use, as we've shown you. What about the pre-existing data? And this is something that we're going to address in our next milestone. So thinking about as a scanner, whether on-prem or in the cloud, we'll have this kind of capability to provide a much more comprehensive CLP experience of data, what we're calling data at rest, not only data in use. The next phase, the next milestone is what we're calling two things. One is the intelligent classification. Here what we've shown you is automatic classification or classification engine. Very good one, but we are going to increase our investment in doing much more what we're calling the intelligent classification. We are working also with the office side of the house, really to have one single classification engine. And much more than that. We're going to add more and more ML capabilities to the process. So this is also something that you expect us to deliver down the road. When we're talking about sources, you've seen here applications of Office application, right-clicking into Windows, and also cloud-based application as well. So we are going to extend it much, much more. Different sources that you will be able automatically to apply CLP, classification, labeling, and protection, for different sources. I can give you an example. Salesforce at Ingress. So this is one example. But also on-prem sources, such as we've just discussed, file shares. Once you are uploading a file or downloading a file, we'll be able to have these kind of capabilities as well. More platform to produce labels. Again, it's not only a PC, Windows. We will have this kind of experience also on mobile and web, whether within the Office 365 suite. So those kind will be integrated natively. And one very, very important, which we believe it's so crucial to the success, to your success, not only for our success, also to provide an SDK that you could take this SDK, whether it's the ISV can take this SDK, or you could leverage this SDK and can develop your own kind of CLP experience. So this is also something that we will provide, doing classification, labeling, and protection in what application, homegrown application that you want. So you could also embed this kind of capability, integrate those kind of capabilities into your infrastructure. So this is it. If you want to learn more about AIP, Azure Information Protection, so you could go to this URL. And if you have any kind of question, I will be delighted really to answer. Yes? Yeah, it's a very good question. So the question is whether we're going to support down the road Mac. So the answer is yes. And this is, again, something that we are working with the Office team. So you may see down the road the same CLP experience that we've shown here, also building natively within the Office suite in Mac and as well in other devices as well. I've seen here someone there, barely can see you. Yes? I think I've heard the question. FCI, you mean FCI?
FCI.
All right. So the question is whether it is integrated into FCI. We are looking at it. Right now it is not. You may leverage our labels also in FCI, but it is not natively tied together. All right? So it is possible to do so. It is possible to leverage our labels in FCI, but it is not tied together, integrated as well as in MCAS, as you've seen here, for example. Other questions?
Yeah, over there, maybe?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So for many customers, they are moving from on-premises storage like file server, SharePoint, whatever, and we're using migration tools to migrate to Office 365. My question is, are you planning
So the question is, there is migration tools that are making it much easier to migrate to the cloud, and whether it is possible to take these kind of capabilities and make it much easier. For example, those files that are very, very sensitive, you will not migrate, and those files that are less sensitive may be uploaded to the cloud. So this is the question, right? So my answer, we are looking at it. Right now, we haven't done integration. Those kind of vendors that are expert in doing this kind of tools, they may leverage down the road our SDK. And this is one of our intention, to building up this ecosystem. So taking this SDK may work also for those vendors as well. Not only the DLP.
We've started some of you may work with the Fast Track team at Microsoft to get their help in order to migrate from SP to SPO. We've started a discussion together with the Fast Track people in order to help them identify those top secret data on your SP and make sure that you migrate everything besides that. We're not there already by today. We're in general availability just in the next couple of days, but we're absolutely on top of that, and it's important. Learn more, AKAMS AP Docs, and this could be an excellent way for you to start understanding our product, to start looking at that. When you're going there, you can see a very, very short page talking about what is Azure Information Protection. And here at the end of this page, it looks long, but it's just many screenshots. There is a nice mechanic videos on that and some information about how you can download the client and what is an FAQ about it. And we also have a very, very nice Yammer community called Azure Information Protection. There is a link from here on the Yammer to here in the Yammer. And you can join us, and there is a nice community here that is asking questions, direct the communication with Shai, myself, the product managers, Yuval, and our customer success teams. And we do encourage you guys to look at that, to download the client. Yuval, you said that the general availability is on Monday. It's important for me to say that if you don't have the patience like me, the general availability from engineering is already in the cloud. So the download center has the general availability. We've already communicated the EMS E3 and E5, and this is important for us. What we have on Monday is a blog, some commercial parts. From the technical perspective, guys, we are there. So what you can look at today at 4, our friend Gagan Gulati from the RMS team, our colleague from Redmond, is talking about amazing, really, really awesome, secure mail scenarios of how we can improve the way that we are securing the communication, the collaboration with people in the business, with B2C, with B2B, with people that have just like a Gmail account and working with an iOS, how we really have the ability to collaborate with them in a secure way. And I really, really recommend you to come and join to this session. It's going to be very, very interesting. And on Friday, I'm leaving Friday morning, but for Friday, General Motors are going to speak on stage and talk about their excellent experience with rights management. So with that, we have 1 minute, 33 seconds. The rest of the questions, we'll take them here offline on the stage. I encourage you to get into the session ratings and just, it's 5, right? Mark the 5 on the right spot because it was a very, very interesting session. And I learned a lot about this session. I'm positive that it was very, very educational for you as well, and that you can really gain benefit from that already starting today.
Yeah, so again, thank you of letting us presenting our new product. And again, if you do have any questions, you could ask us here. And you could also, there is the Ask IP team. So this is also an alias that you could send out questions.
Thank you so much for your time, guys.